Meeting will please come to order. I would ask everyone to stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by Ryan Bolt, Director of Missions for the Cross Point Church, and he is the guest of Council Member Mitchell.
If you please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together. We thank you for the gift of free expression. As we've witnessed over the past few weeks, it's such a blessing to live in a country where we can verbalize and vocalize our thoughts, our opinions, and be heard without the threat of violence. And so, God, we thank you for the leaders of the city that make the choice to put themselves in a position of representing the people and representative democracy. And so, God, we pray as decisions are made that we make decisions that represent the people. We are so blessed for this opportunity to hear so many different voices and so many different thoughts and opinions expressed. We thank you for this evening. We thank you for the discussion and the commentary and the discourse that will happen this evening. And we just pray that it will be done in the greatest of ways and what is pleasing to you, Father. We lift this to you. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for approval of our minutes of February 1st? If there's no objection, the minutes will stand approved. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
No, ma'am, there are not.
Thank you. Councilman Gatto?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I rise for a point of personal privilege. I want to extend my sympathy on behalf of the entire council to the family of Roxy Matheson. Miss Roxy passed away just recently. The funeral is tomorrow at 2 o'clock at Lincoln Hills Baptist Church. Miss Roxy was a fixture here at Metro government for several years. She worked for several mayors, including the first mayor of Metro government, Mayor Beverly Briley, and she will be sorely missed. She was a wonderful lady, and again, I think in her honor, if we could observe just a moment of silent prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we begin with the other announcements, I'd like for everyone in the chamber to please find a seat. Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. 3 weeks ago, I had a very pleasant privilege to be on a 7-member panel of judges that had a daunting task to choose the new 2011 Miss Nashville. We spent an entire afternoon interviewing 12 very intelligent, very beautiful young women. They then went on to compete in talent, swimsuit, and evening gown competitions. And to say that that task was difficult is an understatement. Any of these 12 young women would have been an excellent choice, but only one could prevail. And our choice was Chelsea Jensen. Chelsea is currently enrolled at UT Knoxville. She's pursuing a degree in journalism and electronic media. She has a 4-point GPA. She is the first of 30 in her class of 2013. She is on the Chancellor's Honor Roll program and actively involved in the activities of the Pi Mu Honor Fraternity. Her entourage this afternoon includes the Executive Director of the pageant, Sherry Forrest, and Scott Hilburn, who is one of the Miss Nashville board members. So I would like for you as a council to give a regal welcome to the 2011 Miss Nashville.
Councilman Styne.
Is it on?
Yes.
Gosh, I don't even know what else to say after that. I think you covered everything, right? But I wanted to say thank you so much, Phil, for having me here and for giving me this opportunity and for letting me speak with you all. Like he said, I'm Chelsea Jensen. I was recently crowned Miss Nashville. And Miss Nashville is a local preliminary under the Miss America organization. I'm competing in Miss Tennessee this June. And as Miss Tennessee, I would advance to Miss America in January. And right now, I'm advocating my personal platform, which is the Red Flag campaign. It raises awareness about dating violence on college campuses, something that's really close to my heart. And also, Miss America's national philanthropy is Children's Miracle Network, and I would be promoting Children's Miracle Network as well. And I was going to say that Miss Nashville is a scholarship pageant, and the Miss America organization, Miss Nashville, all the other local preliminaries and state pageants, they're led by volunteers, and I wanted to give a big thank you to my directors, Sherry Forrest and Scott Hilburn, and also for Phil Claiborne and my other 6 judges for putting this crown on my head and giving me this opportunity. It's such an honor to represent the state capitol as Miss Nashville, and I'm so excited to be here with you all. Thank you.
I'm not sure Councilman Claiborne's ever smiled so much. He joins me in Resolution 2010-1439. We are honored to have with us tonight, if you all will come forward in just one second, Cole Miller from the Nike Company, Terry and Vivian Sensing, Dr. Chris Marzak, the principal of McGavock Elementary, and Meredith Libby, who's representing Dr. Register's office. This resolution honors Nike Corporation for its support of the Nashville community in the aftermath of the May 2010 flood. Whereas Nike Corporation, through its store at Opry Mills Mall and manager Beth Sisler, who incidentally could not be with us this evening, provided generous support and assistance to the Nashville community in the aftermath of the May 2010 flood. And whereas the support provided by Nike included the distribution of $2.4 million in clothing salvaged from their store to Metro Nashville Public School employees, students, and their families, the donation of $10,000 in physical education equipment to McGavock Elementary School, $10,000 worth of equipment to the Charles Davis Foundation, and $50,000 to Hands On Nashville. And whereas Nike has been a longtime valued pencil partner with McGavock Elementary School, providing mentoring, support, and donated equipment, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County goes on record as honoring Nike Corporation for its generosity and responsiveness to our community in the aftermath of the devastating May 2010 flood. Thank you so much for all you do. And I would say to you all that the partnership between McGavock Elementary and Nike is one of those partnerships that makes our community particularly proud, because I think my understanding is that on both ends, both has meant a lot to both entities. Thank you so very much. Dr. Marzak?
I'm basically just humbled to speak on behalf of McGavock Elementary and Metro Schools. This is an unprecedented event for the Nike Corporation. They've never done this in the history of the company. And for us to give away $2.5 million worth of clothing to over 4,000 Metro families in one day, this took place in one day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on May 28th, is an unprecedented event. So I'm just humbled to be able to come up here to say thank you very much for recognizing this event, because it means a lot to us at McGavock Elementary and Metro Schools and the Nike Corporation. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Hey, the only thing I can really say about this is it's very humbling that you recognize what we did for this community, and it's just it's a great thing to be a part of a community that loves itself this much, that can give back. And you know, it was quite an experience for all of us at my store when we got to do that on May 28th, and all I can really say is thank you. So thank you. Thank you.
On everyone's desk, there is a proposed rule change that will be considered by the Rules Committee at our next meeting. We're now at the point on our agenda for elections and confirmations. Councilmember Adkins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Rules and Confirmations Committee considered the following appointees. The first was Davidson County Historian, the appointment of Dr. Carol Busey for the Davidson County Historian, and the committee approved 8-4, none against, and I move her approval.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next was the Cheatham County Rail Authority, and I believe that I need to move to suspend the rules to consider a late appointment. So I move to suspend the rules to consider Mr.
Is there any
Echolls.
objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilmember Adkins.
Thank you very much. This is for the Cheatham County Rail Authority. Our committee determined that Mr. Ed Cole was fit to be in the position and voted 8-4, none against for his approval. I move his approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Councilmember Atkins, as well as Vice Mayor Neighbors. I rise also to second the appointment of Mr. Echolls to serve on the Cheatham County Rail Authority. As everyone knows, I am rotating off, and I would like to let you know that Mr. Cole's expertise in transportation issues and his broad experience in the staff, state and local government makes him extremely well qualified to serve on the Rail Authority. He currently serves as the Executive Director of the Transit Alliance of Middle Tennessee. Prior to that, Mr. Cole served as Chief of Environmental Planning for Tennessee Department of Transportation and was the former Deputy Commissioner and Acting Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. He also serves on the Regional Transportation Authority. On top of all this, he is the proud father of our own council member, Eric Cole. He is. And with that said, council members and Vice Mayor, I renew my motion that Mr. Cole be elected to this authority.
Thank you. Councilmember Cole, you really want to say something? Okay, go right ahead.
An enormous compliment to be called my father, but I do need to abstain from the vote. Thank you.
So noted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. None. One abstention. Motion passes. Councilmember Adkins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Congratulations, Mr. Cole. Next is the Nashville and Eastern Rail Authority. The committee determined to be fit to be in this position. Our former council member, Mr. J.B. Loring. The committee approved 8-4, none against, and I move his approval.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Tiger.
I would like to point out that among Mr. Loring's qualifications, he once served with Davy Jones.
Any other discussion?
Councilman Styne to clarify, and he gave me bad information.
All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilmember Adkins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Congratulations, Councilman Loring. Next is the Alarm Appeals Board, the appointment of Marcel Hernandez, and the committee approved 8-4, none against, and I move his approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next is the reappointment of Randy Woodard, who was deferred one meeting, 8-4, none against. I move deferral.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Deferral passes.
Next was the Arts Commission, the reappointment of Kim Fowler, and also the appointment of Larry Keaton, were both deferred one meeting. I move both members to defer one meeting.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Deferral passes.
Next was the reappointment of Cindy Styne on the Arts Commission, and the committee approved 8-4, none against, and I move her approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next was the Solid Waste Regional Board, the appointment of Leslie Alexander. The committee approved 8-4, none against, and I move her approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next was the Zoning Appeals Board, the appointment of Stacy Garrett. The committee approved 8-4, none against, and I move her approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
That concluded our business. Thank you.
When I call your name, please stand and remain standing. Dr. Carol Busey, Ed Cole, J.B. Loring, Marcel Hernandez, Cindy Styne, Leslie Alexander, Stacy Garrett. Congratulations, and on behalf of the Metro Council, thank you for your willingness to serve our great city. We're now at the resolution 2011-1534, removes the members of the Metropolitan Board of Fair Commissioners. Councilman Crafton.
Committee report.
Councilman Adkins.
Which one is this one? Yes, this was deferred by Rule 44 to the second meeting in March.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Crafton.
Move to defer to the second meeting in March.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Deferral passes. RS 2011-1535 approves an Economic and Community Development Incentive Grant of $2.4 million to the Industrial Development Board for the benefit of Asurion LLC. Councilmember Adkins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to move approval with a brief explanation.
We have a second, and committee report, Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilmember Adkins.
This is the ECD, Economic Community Development bill that I'm moving tonight. And just to let you know a little bit of facts about this particular bill, the company's headquarters, this is kind of known as the Asurion Bill. The company's headquarters and call center are currently located in Grassmere in my district. They've been planning for expansion and in their economic analysis have looked at staying in Nashville and also expanding in Nashville. I'm a proud sponsor of this particular bill. They currently employ 1,200 people and plan to add another 600 jobs. This is the biggest bill, economic community package, that we've seen since the Dale package. It's very important to my community. It's very important to Nashville, and I urge you to vote for this particular bill. With that, I renew my motion.
Thank you. Councilman Jameson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just need to be recorded as abstaining. Thank you.
So noted. Councilmember Holland.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If I could ask a question of the Director of Finance, I'm going to vote for the bill. However, I wanted to know, this is a shift in policy. I think me and you talked about that before. What are the assurances that the recipient in this instance would have to give the money back? What is the threshold requirement for them to be able to continue to keep the money over the term?
Yeah, for a portion of the money, the key is they have to keep 1,200 jobs at their headquarters and their calls operation, the North American Operations Center in Davidson County. And then for a portion of the money, they only get the $300,000 as they grow jobs. It's a $500 per job credit, so that if they don't create the job, then they wouldn't get those funds.
And what are those jobs? What types of jobs?
They're jobs throughout the company, so there's some headquarter jobs as well as jobs in the new North American Operations Center, which will be service center jobs as well as some IT function jobs. It's throughout the organization.
Thank you very much.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2011-1536 authorizes the submission of an application to request a subzone status for Hemlock Semiconductor LLC as part of a foreign trade zone number 78. Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman Holland, did you wish to be recognized?
If you could get me before the next bill, I'd appreciate it, Vice Mayor.
Okay. All in favor of 1536, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. You want to be before the next bill? Council.
A point of parliamentary procedure, RS 2011-1546, is that a public hearing for the purposes of a beer permit?
Not tonight. It has to be deferred to the second meeting in March, and the public hearing will be that night.
Thank you. I was just wondering about its order. Thanks, John.
RS 2011-1537 authorizes the Director of Public Property Administration to exercise an option to purchase a parcel of property adjacent to Glenview Elementary for use by the school. Councilmember Gilmore.
Hey, Ronnie, you got any questions for us?
Committee reports.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Todd.
Planning and Zoning approved 9-4, 0 against.
Education, Councilmember Gilmore.
Education approved 8-4, 0 against. Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1538 appropriates grant funds from the State Department of Human Services to the Metro Action Commission. Councilmember Berry.
Oh, sorry, not focused. Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against.
Councilman Forcom.
Health and Hospitals voted to approve 5-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1539 approves an amendment to a grant from the State Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health to provide dental services to those children who qualify for TennCare. Councilmember Forcom.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against.
Councilman Forcom.
Health and Hospitals voted to approve 5-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1540 approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Vanderbilt University to provide analytic support to process evaluation data. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Forcom.
Health and Hospitals voted to approve 5-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1541 approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Prevent Child Abuse Tennessee to provide parenting sessions based on the Nurturing Parenting Program for parents of infants and toddlers. Councilmember Berry.
Committee report.
Councilman Forcom.
Health and Hospitals voted to approve 5-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1542 approves a business associate agreement between the Metro Board of Health and Prevent Child Abuse Tennessee to provide safeguards to prevent the use of disclosure of protected health information. Councilmember Berry.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Forcom.
Health and Hospitals voted to approve 5-4, 0 against.
Councilman Berry.
I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1543 approves a grant from the State Department of Transportation to the Metro Police Department for an enhanced DUI enforcement initiative to reduce traffic fatalities attributed to impaired drivers. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Foster.
Public Safety Committee voted to approve 5-4-0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4-0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1544 approves a grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metro Police Department to support the ongoing efforts to prevent, respond, and recover from acts of terrorism and to increase the department's ability to mitigate the effects of an attack. Okay. Councilmember Foster.
No, I'm sorry, that's, I guess Council Lady Langster needs to move it.
Okay. You're handling the bills and you're handling the report?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you. Committee report, please.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4-0 against.
Councilman Foster.
Public Safety voted to approve 5-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Langster.
Move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1545 approves a grant from the Cal Turner Family Foundation to the Davidson County Sheriff's Office for a culinary program. Councilmember Langster.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4-0 against.
Councilman Foster.
Public Safety voted to approve 5-4-0 against.
Councilmember Langster.
Move for approval, please.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1546 exempts Snapstone's restaurant located at 5385 Mountain View Road from the minimum distance requirement for obtaining a beer permit. Councilmember Duvall.
Councilman Coleman will handle this, please.
Councilman Coleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilman Foster.
Because we didn't note Mr. Cooper's statement in the analysis, the committee voted to approve 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Coleman.
Move to approve. Second. With the idea of deferring for the second meeting in March.
Your motion is to defer to the second meeting in March?
That's correct, Vice Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion to defer to the second meeting in March passes. RS 2011-1547 approves a joint funding agreement between the Department of Water and Sewage Services and the U.S. Department of the Interior Geological Survey to acquire elevation data for the Davidson County and portions of the Harpeth River Basin in adjacent counties. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved 6-4-0 against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4-0 against, and I move approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1548 accepts the 2010 plan update for the North Nashville community adopted by the Metropolitan Planning Commission on January 27, 2011. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Todd.
Planning and Zoning approved 9-4-0 against.
Councilman Harrison.
I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1549 modifies the master list of architects and engineers originally approved by resolution number RS 94-1050. Councilmember Hodge.
Committee report.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4-0 against.
Councilmember Hodge.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4-0 against. Move approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1550 approves an amendment to a federal stimulus grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to provide training to workers. Councilmember Berry.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Toller.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Personnel approved, 9-4, against.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1551 approves an amendment to a contract between the State Department of Transportation and the Metro Parks and Recreation Department for the receipt of funds through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 and for construction of the TSU connector for the Cumberland River Greenway. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 13-4, 0 against.
Councilman Maynard.
The Parks Committee approves 6-4, 0 against.
Council Lady Langster.
Vice Mayor, with a brief explanation, I move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. Council member.
I just want to remind the constituents of District 21, I am keeping my promise that I have reinforced that no property will be disturbed north of the railroad track. But this is a very positive project connecting North Nashville with the West End area. And with that, I renew my motion and move for approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1552 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the claim of Diane Robinson against Metro government for the amount of $30,205.65. Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance approved 13-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on introduction and first reading. Councilman Crafton.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to ask you to defer indefinitely 856 and 857.
BL 2011-856 is an ordinance amending Title III of the Metropolitan Code of Laws relative to years of credited employee service required for a vested pension. 857 is an ordinance amending Title III of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to state that it is the intent of the metropolitan government that post-employment benefits are considered defined contribution benefits plans.
Vice Mayor, let me make just a quick comment on that. I'm sorry for not asking earlier. These are some real situations that we need to look at, and I've got some people that asked to are actually going to Washington this week, and they're talking about this very issue, so I want to give them some time to do some research and give us some more information. So we've got to get it right if we do something, so I appreciate your deferral.
It was motion for indefinite deferral.
Indefinite deferral, thank you.
And we have a second. Councilman Jameson, do you want to speak on indefinite deferral? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilman Jameson.
Madam Vice Mayor, if it's appropriate, I'd like to pull my own bill, 858, and defer one meeting, but with a brief explanation.
2011-858 is an ordinance amending Section 17.16.250 of Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code zoning regulations to modify the requirements applicable to home occupations. Councilman Jameson.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, did you call upon me to speak? Sorry. Councilman Styne had a question for me, and I wanted to be sure I answered it.
No, I called on you to do your motion again.
I'm moving to defer it one meeting.
We have a motion for a one-meeting deferral. Councilman Styne, did you wish to say anything?
Yes, he did.
All in favor of a one-meeting deferral, please.
I don't get my brief explanation?
You certainly can, Councilman.
But I actually get 4.5 minutes, right? Sorry. Vice Mayor.
On the motion to defer.
On the motion to defer, but the deferral is a significant procedural step that I think needs explanation. Members of the council, this bill is a bill that has been in the works for actually almost close to a year. And I just wanted to explain the origins of it so that you'd understand the significance of where it's going to go from here following the deferral. What is an interesting reality of our codes today is that if you went home tonight and had a dinner party and invited 50 of your closest friends to attend, they could all come to your house, park on the street, be in your house for hours, and that'd be perfectly appropriate and acceptable to the Metro Codes Department, to Metro Nashville government. However, if you woke up the next morning and you were an attorney or a real estate agent or a piano teacher, and you had one client step foot in your house for a business transaction, that is a codes violation. And so I several months ago, got approached by an individual who wanted to conduct a limited business out of her home. Another councilman had a similar experience, and we looked at the code section and what was prohibited, and then started looking around at surrounding cities, at what those cities do with respect to home occupation businesses. It's important to note that home occupation is currently allowed under the code. But there are lax restrictions. The purpose of this bill is to tighten those restrictions, but to also allow us to scrutinize whether or not we actually want to illegalize piano teaching, provision of legal services, or any single individual employment enterprise in a home. So that is the purpose of the bill, and by deferring it, I've asked the Nashville Neighborhood Defense Fund to act as sort of a clearinghouse for a community meeting on this bill. And in working with the leadership there, hope to have a community meeting within the next month or so in conjunction with this bill meeting moving to second reading. And so with that explanation, I'll entertain any questions, but that I would move for a one-meeting deferral. Thank you.
All in favor of a one-meeting deferral, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. One meeting deferral passes. Is there a motion for approval of all other bills on first reading? Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now on bills on second reading. BL 2010-825 amends the Metro Code to provide for free parking for vehicles that purchase carbon offsets. Councilman Tigert.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted at the request of the sponsor to defer indefinitely, 13-4-0 against.
Councilman Birch.
Traffic and Parking voted to defer indefinitely, 4-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Tigert.
I would move to defer indefinitely with also the recommendation that this bill be sent to the Traffic and Parking Commission for a recommendation.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-836 amends the Metro Code to exempt certain newer vehicles from the emissions testing requirements. Councilman Ryman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance voted to defer second meeting in March at the request of the sponsor, 13-4-0 against.
Councilman Forcom.
Health and Hospitals also voted to defer the second meeting in March at the request of the sponsor, 5-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Ryman.
I move to defer the second meeting in March.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Deferral motion passes. BL 2011-838 amends the Metro Code to prohibit Metro government contractors from discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity through their employment practices. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you. Committee reports.
Councilmember Berry.
Budget and Finance has no recommendations, 6-4, 6 against, and 1 abstention.
Councilman Toller.
Personnel voted 5 to defer indefinitely, 3 noes and 1 abstention. Therefore, no recommendation since we cannot vote to defer it indefinitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilmore.
I move for approval with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you. I just want to say that we always want to make sure that we're a welcoming city, and whether you're black, you're white, you're female, you're small business, rich or poor, we want to communicate that we are for equality, and that's what this bill does. We want to make sure that we're always basing things on performance and talent, and that we are a city that welcomes everyone. If you can perform and if you can do a good job, we never want to set up barriers for that. And so with that, I move for approval.
Order, please. Councilman Adkins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I need to abstain due to my employment, and I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Councilman Foster.
Councilman Foster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I also need to be recorded as abstaining on all votes with respect to this bill tonight. My employer as a vendor of Metro government would be directly affected. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Baker.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. You know, in 2009, I co-sponsored 2009 502 for personal reasons, and for the same personal reasons, I strongly support this bill, and I'd like to see it passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ryman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would move to defer this bill to the second meeting in June.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman.
As most of you know, it was mentioned yesterday in Budget and Finance Committee that there's a bill in the state that I was told yesterday that if that bill in the state passes, it's about 95% sure that this bill would become null and void. Today I was told that if that bill passes in the state, that this bill would be 100% null and void. So my recommendation would be is to defer this to the second meeting in June, give the state an opportunity to see what they're going to do on their bill, and then bring it back to this council at that time. Thank you.
We had a motion and a second. I have lots of lights on waiting to speak. If you want to speak on this, raise your hand. Councilman Jameson.
Madam Vice Mayor, I would move to table that motion.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Jameson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. With respect to Councilman Ryman's request to defer this, a few things to keep in mind about the mechanics of the bill. Should we defeat the deferral motion and go on to approve the bill tonight on second, a full month will pass between second and third reading because of the public hearing requirement in March. So there is abundant time to consider the merits of the bill and potential changes if by substitution. In the time leading up to tonight, in the nearly 2 months that this has been the topic of discussion, the sponsors received one suggested amendment, only one, while making clear that they would be receptive to any amendments that made a difference to the individual proponent. I believe that amendment may be offered tonight. In other words, there's no additional reason for deferral or consideration, at least for determining the substance of the bill. The substance of the bill itself, of course, as you've heard, the effect will be to add one sentence to our procurement policy. One sentence. So while you've heard these allegations that it adds a bureaucracy and administrative requirements and fees and costs, it doesn't do that. It's one sentence. And I submit to you that deferral is not necessary for purposes of determining what the bill is about. To read one sentence. I had to read Moby Dick in a week in high school. I think we can get through one sentence in the time it's going to take us to get to third reading. The concerns about the state legislation, I honestly submit to Councilman Ryman and to the others that if the state legislature truly in their wisdom thinks it's appropriate to deprive cities of autonomy, to tell citizens of every city in the state that you no longer have self-control and self-determination in setting these policies. Think of all the other policies we set uniquely and individually here. We have unique policies in Nashville on environmental protection, on employment, wage, and hour issues. And if you're just going to defer to the state and punt to them and let them tell you everything to do, why are we here? Why is there a council? And if at any time the state legislature needed to hear where we are on a policy like this, it's tonight and in a month, so that they'll know when they cast those votes on the floor up the hill exactly what they're doing and what the city of Nashville wants in deference to that. Lastly, I would just submit to you that I don't think anybody on the council floor wants more emails on this topic. I genuinely don't. And if you haven't gotten enough, let me know and I can direct some of mine to you. But I think we've heard enough. I think we know where our hearts are and where our constituents are. And let's move forward tonight. If you're against the bill, vote your heart tonight. If you're deferring it, knowing you're already going to vote for it at the end of the day, why put us through that? Why delay this and prolong the agony? So with that, I move to table the deferral motion.
Councilman Ryman.
Well, thank you, Vice Mayor, and I agree with Councilman Jameson about the emails, because I do have a little button on my computer that says delete, and of all the emails I got, I found that probably half are supporting this bill and it's about half against this bill. Now, as far as what the state does, we go every year, every day on what the state passes or what the federal government passes. That comes down to local government. So I don't see any reason to pass this, knowing that there is a bill in the state that more than likely is going to pass at the state. Because all you got to do is look at what happened in November and how the state delegation is made up of there. So again, I would urge all of you to vote to table this, to defer this to the second meeting in June, give the state an opportunity to see what to do with that bill, come back. There's no urgency that I see in passing this tonight or next week or next month. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to have a machine vote. Councilman? I was getting ready to do that. We are voting on the tabling motion. The motion is to table Councilman Ryman's motion to defer. So if you do not want to consider Councilman Ryman's motion, you will vote in favor of the tabling motion. If you want to consider Councilman Ryman's motion, you will vote against the tabling motion. We will have a machine vote. Madam Clerk.
Ayes 21, noes 16, 2 abstentions.
The tabling motion passes. We're now back on the original motion, and I will start back with those in the queue. Councilman Holland.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise to offer an amendment and ask Mr. Cooper to explain that amendment.
The amendment is in your packet, and although it looks like it's a full page of text, the only thing it really does is add a condition that the ordinance would not apply to any company or individual that applies employees less than 15 persons. So the bill would only apply to those with 15 or more employees.
Thank you, John. This amendment mirrors Title VII legislation, and it also provides some protection for small business, which we heard of the Chamber. You may have seen a letter today from the Chamber. I made that offer to them. I'm still going to keep it, and so I ask for your support of this amendment. Thank you.
Any discussion on the amendment? Raise your hand. Is there a second on the amendment? Second. Okay. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes. Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The existence of unacceptable condition in society does not make individuals involved in those conditions any less human or any less valuable. An alcoholic can be likable and have redeeming values in spite of the addiction, but that doesn't mean the behavior is acceptable to the masses of the people. In the case of sexual orientation, the vast majority of the world's religious population is willing to embrace the individual, but they do not find the actions acceptable. Whether one is Christian, Jew, Muslim, Buddhist, Mormon, or any other major religious system, homosexual activity is not condoned. In recognition of that, the sponsors have responded by saying the proposed ordinance specifically excludes religious institutions from the operative effect. The sponsors recognize that sexual orientation is a divisive issue for many, and that good and honest individuals express genuine disagreement based often upon religious convictions. The ordinance will exclude religious entities. I see this as a noble but empty gesture, which totally ignores the fact that there are hundreds upon hundreds of large and small business owners and operators who belong to the religions represented by the institutions that will be excluded. If this ordinance passes, we are saying to every person that belongs to a church, temple, mosque, or other house of worship that we are not interested as a government in cooperating with them in any way because their values do not coincide with that of the government. If we do that, we are guilty of the very thing this bill purports to prevent. If we pass this bill under the guise of fairness and the elimination of discrimination, it's my opinion that we are grossly hypocritical and guilty of the very thing that we pretend to oppose. In April 2010, the National Health and Society Life Survey was cited before the Supreme Court as the most widely accepted study of sexual practices in the United States. One of the principal findings of the survey was that 2.8% of the male population and 1.4% of the female population self-identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual. It further states that only 0.6% of men and 0.2% of women have been exclusively homosexual with regard to attraction, behavior, and self-identification over a lifetime. If the real aim of this legislation is to eliminate discrimination, it should be amended to affirm no non-merit discrimination in hiring and contracting practices, or we should include a listing of all possible groups of citizens who might be discriminated against, starting with any who comprise 1.4% of the population and up. There is no freedom or justification in asking Christian or religious individuals, groups, or organizations who may want to engage in metropolitan government in any official manner to accept a way of life they do not agree with because it is condoned by metro government policy. As a government, we can rightly and justifiably set an example that others might choose to follow, but it is not our place to dictate to the private sector what they should do or not do in their places of business. In the elections of last November, changes at all levels of government took place at the ballot box, and the basic message of those elections was the government should take a more limited role in people's lives and work. Mayor Dean expressed his hesitation to move in this direction to a city paper reporter in December 27th. Nashville Chamber has expressed concerns over the negative repercussions of the bill. I'm asking you to vote with me not to exclude anyone based on their moral or religious beliefs.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Crafton.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. I really appreciated the comments that Council Lady Gilmore had earlier about, not judging people on race or anything like that and make it strictly a meritocracy. I think that's important, and I think that's what most businesses try to do, and I think that's what our government tries to do. So I'm not going to argue the sexuality portion of this because, my personal opinion is I think people are born the way they are, and that's the way they are. And have to do the best you can with the cards you're dealt. But what I have a little bit that I need to talk about is this bill, from a technical standpoint, to me, the problem is that it doesn't really have an enforcement mechanism. And so, when it's said that it's not any additional burden to a private business or the government, well, actually, to me, I think it could be. Maybe the sponsor may want to address this, whether it passes tonight or a third reading. But, from what I understand and looking at this, if I'm a small business and I choose not to hire somebody, and it turns out later that they're gay or bisexual, and then they're mad at me, and so they complain, which they have a right to do, to the finance department. Well, then the finance department, now they are the investigatory body because you can't go to the EEOC because federal guidelines don't recognize this as a protected category. So now we've got an additional burden on the finance department to try to investigate And you know, if the finance department says, well, we're not going to contract with you, we've had a complaint, you know, you're out. Well, it could be a legitimate complaint, but it may not be a legitimate complaint. You know, so how do you weigh those two? Now you've penalized a business that may not have done anything wrong. Now they may have done something wrong, but the point I'm trying to make is we don't have a mechanism set up really to determine who's right or who's wrong. So if the council does want to pass this, then this issue really needs to be addressed to make it be effective. If we just want to have a little statement that, hey, you know, we're for everybody being equal and we don't want to discriminate, you know, we can do that with a council moralizing resolution, which is really what this turns out being if we don't put some mechanisms in place to make it actually effective and do something. So I know the people that are for this want it to do something, want it to have some teeth. Right now it doesn't. Doesn't do anything other than make certain people feel good, and that's fine. So we need to look at that. The other thing, looking at the amendment, Mr. Cooper, I mean, am I reading this wrong? It says on number 3 on both of them, any group or organization where the application of such provisions would significantly burden the expression of the group or organizations, as such prohibition is not intended to interfere with the freedom of expressive association guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. I mean, that pretty much sounds like that if I have a company and I tell you that, hey, you know, this significantly burdens my expression for my group and my company. I mean, it looks like I can opt out. Am I reading this correctly?
Well, that freedom of expression would have to be part of the mission statement of the organization. This language is basically taken from the Boy Scouts of America case, which was a U.S. Supreme Court case that dealt with the Boy Scouts refusing to allow a gay scout leader. And the Supreme Court said that part of the mission of that organization was to promote certain ideals and that it would violate those freedoms. So I don't think any business could use this, I mean, unless it was legitimately part of their motive or mission. Okay, well, just please keep in mind my comments. Thank you.
Councilman Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I wasn't going to speak on this bill before I came here tonight, but as I've been just mulling over the bill and trying to decide which way I would vote on this bill, I began to think about my experience here in Metro government. And I haven't been involved in Metro government for a very long time, but being involved in Metro government, I've began to study the history of this city and what we've done in this city and what our leaders have done in the past. And I think of Mayor Briley when I think of this bill and what we're doing and what we have on the table before us tonight. Because if it wasn't for the character and the spirit in which he led our city at the time that he was our mayor, then I may not be sitting before you tonight. And it's very important that as we make decisions in that same spirit. The main word in this bill that we should take into consideration is discrimination. And while I am a Christian and I do not encourage homosexuality, I will not stand for discrimination of anyone. So I'm going to support this bill, and I ask the rest of my colleagues to support this bill as well, because we should not stand for discrimination of any kind in this city, and that's what type of city Nashville should be.
Councilmember Hodge.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper, is there any federal law or state law on this issue?
No, sir, other than this pending state legislation that was referred to earlier.
Thank you. Then I would submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that our oath of office requires us to support the Constitution of the U.S., the Constitution of the state of Tennessee, and not some other document or some agenda. And this goes beyond the scope of our authority. The prohibitions that this bill brings forward says that I, as an individual, if I have 16 employees, cannot live out my faith, my Christianity, in whatever form that I choose to express it. On your desk, there's a little brochure that came from the Disaster Relief Organization. They gave $5 million worth of goods, $3 million in Tennessee last year, most of it during the flood. 1.6 million here in Davidson County. So as a businessman, I can contribute to that organization because I believe as a Christian, I should demonstrate concern for my neighbors. Jesus said it, love your neighbor. He didn't say endorse their lifestyle. But I cannot, as a businessman with 16 employees, conduct my business the way I want to, the way I desire to based on my faith, if this passes. So I cannot support it. No one in my district has contacted me in support, but many have contacted me in opposition. Yesterday morning I had a call from an elderly lady, and Ms. Doris said, I have 3 businesses. What business does the government have telling me what I do in my business? And I agree with her. We don't have any reason to do that, to interfere in a private contractual relationship between an employer and an employee. We go beyond our authority if we attempt to do that. And finally, one of the sponsors asked us to consider, in effect, is there a gay gene? Are folks born that way? I'm no scientist, but I looked at several studies, and when you get past the soundbite and you get past the media headlines and you look at what's actually there, all kinds of qualifications. Well, we think there ought to be, or we hope there is, but every one of them says, no, we can't prove it. Everyone says environmental factors overwhelmingly determine that conduct. Now, most of us really don't care what somebody else does in their house, but don't come and tell me what I'm going to do in my house. That is discrimination. And that's what this bill does. It discriminates against Christian business people, Muslim business people, Orthodox Jews, because of their belief and their faith. That is wrong. I'll vote no.
Councilmember Jameson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think first and foremost, a few words of appreciation are due now. First, I sincerely want to express to the mayor appreciation for his comments that this makes sense, and I think earlier just today said that it's the right thing to do. And so, Councilman Claiborne, I understand you read the December city paper, but I think if you've looked at the most recent reports, we have some leadership from Mayor Dean that I'm deeply appreciative of on this bill. I also noticed today that the Davidson County Democratic Party, the executive committee, voted unanimously in support of this legislation. And I also can't help but notice here on my little laptop that there's a local television station conducting an online poll right now that asks, should companies that work with Metro government be banned from discriminating against gay employees? This is an ongoing poll, and I'm sure these numbers have changed, but right before the meeting began, 70% of the respondents said yes, they should be banned. I think I know where our leadership is, and I think I have a general sense of where the majority of Davidson County residents are. I understood from comments that people have divided their emails in terms of half in support and half against. I would encourage you to go back and look for those who told you where they lived, and then do the math and tell me where the majority is of the emails that you're getting. Speaking of emails, I want to share one with you that may sound familiar, that was sent to us by the Family Action of Tennessee, that said if there's an expansion of civil rights based upon sexual orientation and gender identity expression, it would lead to litigation against the city and an explosion of lawsuits. It also said the expansion of the ordinance would create hidden costs to Nashville taxpayers. Now, the reason that may sound familiar to you is you got that in 2009. We got that from a gentleman who mailed it to us on the eve of the third vote of the bill sponsored by Council Lady Berry and several others. And I submit to you that if you look around today, where's that explosion of litigation that we were promised was going to come? Where are those calamities that were told to us by the Family Action of Tennessee group were going to materialize if we dared vote for that bill in 2009? And where are the hidden costs? There are 181 cities across the country that have anti-discrimination legislation that applies to private individuals. And if there was one of those cities that had data to back this up, you know the opponents have the resources to show you that data, and they can't because it didn't happen. We also received a lot of well-intended, but I submit to you mistaken emails from a variety of persons. One, a very nice lady, Lori Moyers, wrote to us, "We already have rights written into our Constitution that stand up for and preserve everyone's rights against discrimination of any form in the workplace." No, we don't. The Constitution sanctioned slavery. We had a fairly significant disagreement over that. And it was only 100 years later, after bloodshed and assassinations and burnings and brutality, that we recognized the right thing to do. And to hear one of my colleagues tonight argue that it's only a small percentage of people that are gay or lesbian, and to suggest that because the minority is such a minority, they don't deserve protection, flies in the face of what the spirit of this legislation should be and what this council should stand for. And with that, I ask for your approval.
Councilman Dominy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to share one of the emails we received in support of the bill. It says, "In a civil society, it is not appropriate to discriminate against any citizen at any time." Mr. Cooper, based on the discussion from my colleagues, if a person is a Christian business owner and they choose not to write into their policy a non-discrimination ordinance or non-discrimination policy saying that they will not discriminate against homosexuality or gender identity, will they be able to do business with this city?
If they refuse to acknowledge that they do not discriminate, is that what you're saying?
If they refuse to put in writing that they condone homosexuality in their policy, would they be able to do business in this city?
If they refuse to sign the affidavit saying that they did not subscribe to any policy that did allow discrimination and that they do not discriminate, if they refuse to sign that, then that's correct, they would not be eligible.
So in other words, we're incentivizing businesses to condone a practice that multiple religions find wrong. We're incentivizing those with tax dollars. Let me go on and read the next sentence. This sentiment is heightened when tax dollars are involved. So we're talking about incentivizing businesses to condone a practice that multiple religions and hundreds of thousands of citizens across this city and this state view as inappropriate with tax dollars. The next sentence, citizens have contributed to the tax dollars being generated for Metro to use. Thus, it is not permissible to discriminate against any citizen's opportunity to compete for Metro contracts. But yet, we're talking about discriminating against those who have strong religious beliefs and choose to operate their business in a way that is consistent with the teachings of their religion. We will discriminate against all of them. This bill in and of itself is discriminatory. I think we should pass something that says we're not going to discriminate based on non-merit factors, but this is not that bill. This bill specifically precludes people who operate their business in a way consistent with their religion from doing business with the city, and therefore incentivizes actions that many of those folks find inappropriate. I think we should vote this down. We were going to table it, and we chose not to as a body. It should be voted down.
Councilmember Holland.
Previous question.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on previous question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Previous question passes. We're going to have a machine vote on 2011-838 as amended.
Turn it on.
Madam Clerk?
Ayes 21, noes 16, 3 abstentions.
838 passes. Next is 2011-840. Amends the official street and alley and acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 1863. Councilmember Page.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Todd.
Traffic and parking approved, 9-4-0 against.
Councilmember Page.
I'd like to defer this bill indefinitely.
We have a motion and a second on indefinite deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-842 approves an amendment to a lease agreement between Metro Government and Square Investment Holdings, LP, for the lease of office space in the Washington Square building for District Attorney's Office. Councilmember Jameson.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Berry.
I'm sorry, where are we?
We are on 842.
842, thank you. This was referred to Budget and Finance, so we approved 13-4-0 against.
Councilmember Todd.
Planning and zoning approved, 9-4-0 against.
Thank you, Councilman Jameson.
With that ringing endorsement, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-843 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by renaming a portion of Summit Avenue to West Summit Avenue. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Todd.
Planning and zoning approved, 9-4-0 against.
Councilmember Birch.
Traffic and parking voted to approve, 4-4-0 against.
Councilmember Hodge.
Public Works deferred by rule.
Councilman Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to ask the council to vote as committee as a whole to approve Public Works.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, go ahead, Councilman.
And I would like to move for approval with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Thank you. This particular street runs off of Clarksville Pike, and it has an interrupt from private property. So therefore, any emergency vehicle that is using this street would have to go around about 3 blocks out of the way to get to the other end. And a lot of times they miss the point and they go to the other end without coming to the front part when actually the problem is on the front end. So with this in mind, we'd like to just rename a portion of this to West Summit for safety reasons. So therefore I ask the council for their approval.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Councilman Forcom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If you'd allow me just to make a quick comment on this bill, I just want to mention that BL 2010-789, which we passed a couple of months ago, I'm going to vote in favor of this bill, but you did get a report from the Metro Historical Commission, the street name change to Metro County. I hope everybody looked at that. It was very impressive. It went back to 1929, and like I said, if you ever have any doubts, hopefully this report in future, and I'd like to thank the Historical Commission for the work they put in this, and I'm going to vote yes on Mr. Harrison's bill. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 843 passes. BL 2010-731 appropriates an amount not to exceed $200,000 from the unappropriated fund balance of the General Services District to the Department of Water and Sewage Services for the benefit of car washes and plant nurseries that were subject to mandatory water conservation measures put in place after the May 2010 flood. Councilmember Evans. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Councilman Tiger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have tried diligently to answer any and all questions on that, so I will just move approval and if anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Birch.
I need to abstain on this.
So noted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Machine vote, please. We need a machine vote on 731. Madam Clerk.
Ayes 27, noes 12, 1 abstention.
Motion passes. Next is BL 2010-803, changes 10.65 acres from RM9 to SP zoning for property located at Old Hickory Boulevard, unnumbered, north of Central Pike, to permit a mixture of commercial and/or medical uses along with a possible assisted living facility and active senior living. Councilman Gatto.
Need to move for indefinite deferral.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-832 authorizes Bristol Development Group to install, construct, and maintain an underground encroachment for the property located at 1700 State Street. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you. If all committee reports are in, I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-833 names the auditorium at the Howard Office Building in honor of Sonny West. Councilman Tiger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-834 amends the Metro Code pertaining to prospecting and the preservation of historic sites and artifacts found on Metro government property. Councilman Forcom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval with just a brief clarifying comment on this bill.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman?
Yes, and the only thing I want to point out is something I didn't point out last time. A question came up after second reading, and I just want to point out that this does have a procurement contract where the contractor does basically have to sign on this, and it does have some teeth in this bill, and I just wanted to point that out. Thank you. I move approval.
All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-839 abandons all public utility easements in connection with the Brighton Road sewer on the MBA campus. Councilmember Holloman.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-841 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of the 28th Avenue North right-of-way. Councilmember Langster.
All committees having reported in, I move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1553 requests the Metro Department of Water and Sewage Services to identify and apply for capital grants that will assist in funding the installation of a 6-inch water main along the Hoggett Ford Road corridor of the Hermitage community. Councilmember Stanley.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Stanley.
I move approval with a couple of brief comments.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman?
I was just going to let everyone know that this resolution has been in the residents and I have been informed by the Metro Water Services Department that they will locate public and private grants to help pay for the installation of this 6-inch water main down a 0.8 of a mile section of Hoggett Ford Road. There are 16 homes on this section. They average in value
of appraised value from $88,000 to $500,000. They average about $249,000 apiece. But one of the biggest issues with this is the fact that there are no fire hydrants, because there is no acceptable water main down this Hoggett Ford Road section. So it generates a lot of unsafety issues for the resident citizens as well as the firefighters and personnel safety officials that access this street on a daily basis. And I think it's important too that I had a meeting on October 28th, and attending that meeting were representatives from the Water Department, the Law Department, the Health Department, and the Legal Department. The Legal Department said it was going to be up to the Water Department whether or not they pressed forward with this water main. And what's more, they informed me too that the Health Department had done a study on 4 of the 5 wells that serve 5 of these parcels, these developed parcels along Hoggett Ford Road. And they said that the study had shown that these 4 parcels, all 4 of these parcels, generated a coliform and E. coli bacteria. That's both unhealthy, and it is, they recommended that the residents do not drink that water from these wells. So I would ask that the Water Services Department work with the Metro Council in finding these grants, get this cost estimate to me, and when we adopt a budget next year, this summer, I would ask that we include the grants along with any additional money the city can proceed with, so that we can extend this 6-inch water main down the entire length of Hoggett Ford Road. The fire department, water services, law department, all of them have both said that this is a project that is in dire need of addressing. And I'm asking that it be approved at this time. Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye.